I totally agree with that. And I also tell my daughter, oh, you're creative like your dad, or you're smart like your dad, oh, you look like him. And it builds this figure, like maybe it's imaginary, but it's next to her that she's proud of, and it's working out really well.
All I'll say is you don't need that man to be that influential person. I jokingly tell my mom all the time, I married my mom because she was that strong woman in my life. She showed me how to hold down a job and how to support her family. And she gave me all those life skills and everything. So when I looked for someone to marry, it wasn't about it being a man or a woman. It was someone who was gonna take care of me, someone who was gonna support me. So it doesn't just have to be that father figure that gives you those ideas of what will make a good partner. You all can give that same exact, love and show them what it's like to have that partner in them.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Daff Show. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Daff. Welcome to the episode of The Bridge, Single Mothers versus Married Mothers. Motherhood is a journey filled with love, sacrifice, and challenges. But does the experience change based on relationship status? Single mothers and married mothers often face different struggles and societal perceptions, from balancing responsibilities alone to navigating partnership dynamics. Is one path harder than the other? Do single mothers feel judged? And do married mothers feel misunderstood? In this episode of The Bridge, we bring both sides together to share their experiences, challenges, and perspectives, seeking understanding beyond the labels of single and married. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Daff. Let's get into it.
Hi, I'm a queen. I'm a single mom.
Hi, I'm Mary Pierce. I'm a single mom.
Hi, I'm Annie, I'm a single mom.
Hi, I'm Raylyn. I'm a single mom.
Hi, I'm Amber Wright, and I'm a married mom.
Hi, I'm Lucille Sarkodie, and I'm a married mom.
Hello, I'm Damaris Hernandez, and I'm a married mom.
And the first prompt is, do you think single mothers can be just as emotionally fulfilled as married mothers? Okay, anyone who would like to speak can just
I'll speak. I think we can. Sometimes being single is a choice. Everybody's not a single mother because they, got the wrong man. Some people are by choice because they just, like me, just got out of our situation, didn't want to be married anymore. And I'm very fulfilled. Like, I still go out, I turn up, do karaoke. I'm an actress now. I'm just living it. I'm happier to me. So that's how
So I've been on both sides of the spectrum. I am married now, but I was divorced, and for a time period, I was single, raising two daughters. And during that time period, I wouldn't say that I wasn't fulfilled. My focus was on my children, and I just immersed myself in my children's activities and, made sure that I found a way to rejuvenate and have fun as well. So I think being single doesn't mean that you're not fulfilled. Like you said, it could be by choice.
Oh, I have to say, I've also been on both sides. I used to be married, now I'm single. At first it was really hard to navigate, because you never go into a marriage thinking this is gonna end at one day, right? So, but when I became single, I married very young, and when I became single, I was able to kind of show a different side of myself to my daughter. There was a lot of pressure that was kind of lifted off of me because I had an opportunity to focus on myself and what I wanted, not as a mother, but as a person. And so I feel like my daughter got this more whole version of me because I wasn't constantly trying to care for every single person in my life. And so there's a different type of fulfillment. I think that naturally, if you want a partner, of course, you're gonna wonder. But I think when it comes to parenting and that different type of presence you have with your child when you're single, it's just a different experience overall.
I think I'm the only one who put red up. I came from Ukraine 10 years ago, just me and my daughter. And 7 years out of it, I probably was single. And I can say that I don't think that woman can be, at times, yes, but most of the time we want to be loved, we want to be taken care of, we want to be supported and feel safe, and it's just not there. And I think that, coming out of divorce, definitely you need some time to have fun. And I thought that, maybe 2 years and I'll get married, but it's been 10 years and I'm not. And I definitely feel that longing for being taken care of. And that's why I think that it's not possible to get that when you're alone. Luckily, I'm right now in committed relationships, and I just see the difference. It's such a big difference to be with someone.
Thank you.
So being emotionally fulfilled, I've been single more than I've been in a relationship. So maybe I've been in a relationship for 2 years, the longest, but majority of the time I've been single. And with that, I'm saying emotional fulfillment, for me, can come from my friends, can come from like their great-grandparents or their grandparents. It can come from my mentors and colleagues in school. And so I don't think it necessarily needs to be like a male partnership for me to feel like emotional, like fulfillment. Like I feel that through, other things. And like I said, I spent majority of my life, single, so.
Let's be real, falling in love is the easy part, but staying connected over time, that's a different story. Life gets busy, and before you know it, meaningful conversations take a back seat. If you're feeling like you're just going through the motions with your partner, it might be time for a change. That's where Paired App, the sponsor of today's episode, comes in. Paired App is a relationship app that helps couples deepen their bond every single day. Whether you're dating, you're married, or you're just starting out, it's designed to keep your relationship strong and fun, with daily prompts, expert advice, and fun challenges. This is how it works. Every day, you and your partner answer a fun, thought-provoking question separately. Then you share your answers. This sparks deeper conversations and helps you to learn more about each other. Paired App also gives you relationship activities designed to strengthen your connection. Whether it's a date night idea or a challenge to express affection in a new way, these activities keep things fresh. On top of that, Paired App offers expert-backed tips on communication, intimacy, and how to work through tough moments, helping you grow together every single day. So if you're ready to strengthen your relationship, then you can download Paired App today and start your free trial. Click on my link below to get a 7-day free trial and 25% off Paired Premium so that you can maintain and deepen your connection with your partner. Thank you, Paired App, for sponsoring today's video. Do you think that married mothers face just as many struggles as single mothers?
I personally feel like it is just as many struggles, but it could be two different ballparks. I married my high school sweetheart, and we're still married. And I feel like when it comes to just day-to-day life, it's not only tending my little ones, but also navigating it with my husband, and then aside from that, myself. So I feel like that extra person can really throw things off balance, especially because we both grew up together in a way, if we knew each other since high school and the beginning of parenthood. We started young. We had my first and second, like, really close together. And it's just hard. I see the different issues that could arise when it comes to hanging out with friends, because I could barely do that because I try to prioritize myself to keep the house kind of balanced. And then that friends are kind of like an external factor, so that's kind of in the back end. But I feel like there's a lot of internal struggles that I have to go through because I feel like I have to tend my kids and my husband before myself. And whether that's not being able to go out with friends or having to postpone, let's say, a shower a day or something like that. I feel like they both have just as many struggles, but it could be completely different.
Yeah, thank you.
I've been with my husband for 18 years, married 17 of those, and he's always been that strong backbone in our life where if something came up, he's always like, it's only temporary, we'll get through this. And he's also the overthinker that will put so much stress on top of something that didn't actually need that added stress. But the last couple of years, we've been navigating my mom having a couple of strokes and now having heart issues. My son has been in and out of the hospital over the last 2 years and has to use a wheelchair right now. And so as I grew up with a single parent mom, and so I saw her not have a village and doing it on her own. I think the only way we're surviving, even being married, is that we have a really good village around us. So it isn't necessarily family, it's our friends that are backing us up and getting my daughter to school, because I've been up all night with my son, or I spent a whole month in the hospital with my son, and I saw my daughter twice in that month. So I think like when you have a marriage, like you were saying, that you have that extra person now that you have to check on, instead of just checking yourself and then keeping your kids together. You now have a whole nother adult that could be running a marathon of their own issues that they see on their side that maybe you don't see. And that's hard because I'm very go with the flow, and my husband will come in and he has to think of the 1,000 scenarios that could go down that, and he stresses himself out more. And then instead of just being able to navigate the situation, I'm now navigating his situation and trying to reel him back in, and that can be hard sometimes.
I think sometimes society will obviously make it appear that when you're married, you don't have any issues. Like, you have a husband, you have your children, you have help, so you have everything kind of together. And sometimes don't think about some of those things that, yes, but he is another person that you have to, in some ways, take care of in that sense too. So it may not be all that it always seems. So thank you for sharing that. What do you ladies think?
I think I'm, again, only one red. I don't know, maybe it's because I had to deal with this in the foreign country with the kid, but I think if I had someone during that time, I would still have someone to rely on or to share negatives and positives together, and I didn't have that. And it was constant flight or fight mode and a lot of stress. So yeah, I think that single motherhood is much more harder than being married.
Yeah, so you believe that those benefits outweigh the fact that you're having to take care of him and do those things because you have someone taking care of him.
Providing to a child, maybe because I'm coming from a very poor family and constant fear of getting there again and be in that situation, it also adds to the stress. But yeah, the survival mode was the hardest thing probably during the last 10 years.
Of course, yes. Thank you for sharing that. Did you want to share?
Yes. So I'm surprised by what they shared, because as a single mother, I feel like you are the breadwinner. If you have a husband or a partner, maybe they're bringing in some income, you're bringing in some income. You're doing the laundry, you're doing the dishes, you're making the lunches, you're picking up, you're dropping off. You're everywhere on the assembly line if you're single. So the assumption is if you do have somebody, that they alleviate some of the to-do list of what you have to do. So I'm really surprised that that you guys are saying that depending on the partner and what they come with, that it could not be as easy. That's something that people don't even factor in.
Yes, that's true. Depending on the partner, it can change everything.
I believe that you still struggle as a married woman. I was both. I was married and single, and I used to be feeling like a single mom still. My husband used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to construction and get home at 6. And by then I took the kids to school. I picked them up. I played with them. I took them to the park. I did their homework. I got them in the tub. I fed them, and then he came home, and that was it. That's all he did, is slept and ate. All day I had to do that, 5 days a week. So on the weekends, I would try to put it off on him, but I still feel like I still had struggles. I was on the phone with my sister more than my husband and my friends, and trying to be on Facebook and trying to see what's going on in the world. But I didn't feel like I had a lot of support as a married woman. So I feel like you still have struggles.
I'm not sure if any of you guys have dealt with this too. I feel like I kind of experienced the same thing, where there were times that I felt like I was a single mother when I was married. But when I became a single mother, I feel like there was a sense of community among women around me, and they almost felt like they have to stand up for me, right? Because I had friends. I was very isolated when I was married. I didn't hang out with anybody. Like my friends was my family, you know, and just like you, I'd kind of like put them off to the back burner, go out maybe once a year. And they saw me go through this separation, and they all kind of stood up for me, and like they were there helping me navigate. And so it was a really interesting situation to feel more supported when I became single, and to realize that I had this community, because we all went through it at that time, you know? So I understand exactly what you were saying. Like, I would come home sometimes 11 o'clock, and my ex-husband, though a wonderful father, would fall asleep on the couch, and my daughter's playing, so I would still have to get her ready for bed and then do the nighttime routine, and then, you know, wind her down, and it's midnight and I couldn't do anything for myself, you know, and it's exhausting. And so there is a sense of community, I feel like, that I was very blessed to have once I became a single mom.
Okay, so the next prompt is, are children of single mothers at a disadvantage compared to children of married mothers, and why?
I'll go first.
Sure.
I feel like they are. My son, Ali, has never met his dad his whole life. And when he see other kids with their dads, he's kind of like a little bit sad. And like, he calls everybody dad. Like, if he meets another guy and the kid is calling him dad, he's calling him dad too. And I do feel like it's a disadvantage because I have another son. When we split up, his dad and I split up, he did a whole turn around. Like, he started feeling like, you know, empty and hanging out with all these friends and started doing drugs, and it just went a whole crazy left. So I do feel like kids that are single, for the single parents, have a disadvantage, even in relationships. You grow up thinking certain stuff is okay because you didn't see a mom and dad in your household. So I do feel like they have it's not easy and they have it hard, so yeah.
I think again, I'm looking at this from when I became single, and I think it depends on you as the mother to make sure that your children don't suffer from, you know, not having their father physically in the house with them. So for me, what I did was like I said, I just took the responsibility of making sure that I exposed my kids to a lot of things. You know, they thought I worked at their school because I was always there. I was the PTA president. You know, I did a lot with them that I felt like, you know, obviously divorce is the hardest thing. It's very hard. I'm not minimizing that. I've gone through it. But at the same time, I think once you become single, it's up to you, the mother, to make sure that your children don't feel that they are at a disadvantage. And I did that by just making sure that I sacrificed some of my own time, and I spent a lot of time with my kids, and, you know, making sure we did a lot of things together.
Did your kids ever ask about, like, oh, where's my dad, or I want to see my dad? Like, how did you handle those conversations?
Absolutely.
Because sometimes, sometimes some kids, they're afraid to even bring it up to their mother because they feel like it's going to bother them, and they don't want to show that they're missing having a father and that kind of thing. So how did you deal with that?
I think initially we had every other weekend where he would pick them up. So that helped. And also, I didn't prevent them from talking to their dad. I didn't speak badly about their dad to them. So they had the open opportunity to, you know, call their dad and vent if they needed to. I gave them that space. And every other weekend when he picked them up, it was like, you know, a great opportunity for them to connect. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that.
I agree with you when you said that, not bad-mouthing the father, because my dad was never in the picture at all. There was never those promises to pick me up and then not showing up. He was just plain gone. So my mom always made sure to not necessarily build him up to a person he wasn't, but just let his own actions kind of speak for himself, but never say horrible things about him, and just would say things like, well, you don't know what's going on in his life. So maybe one day he'll figure it out, or, and he'll come back around. We'll get there. And I think that I saw my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law go through their divorce and how it affected the children, being so evil towards each other. It's like you had love for each other. At some point, you now have these beautiful creations in front of you. Don't destroy them with those words, because it follows them so much. And I am grateful for what my mom did, because I just found my dad 3 years ago. And when I asked him why he never looked for me, he said he did a few times, but after so many years, he figured I hated him. So having those conversations, so actually it was really healing for him and my mom too, because he said he wants to build monuments to her, because he goes, I figured you would have filled her head with so many bad words about me, which would have been okay because I totally abandoned you guys. But he goes, but you didn't, and now I have my grandchildren. And I actually, before I found him, I found a whole bunch of half-siblings of his. So when I found him, I gave him a whole family. And that's been a wonderful journey to add. And just keep, and also, even if someone is bad when they're younger, we don't know their life experiences and how that'll change them. So maybe they weren't a good father when they were younger, but maybe they have the opportunity to be a better grandfather when your kids get older or something like that. So always just try and leave that open.
I have a question. How did you go about finding your husband, not having a father like your whole life?
That, yeah. I have to give my mom props, because she was very, like, she made bad choices in men, so that she chose not to date a lot when I was younger, because she was always scared she would find somebody that was abusive, because she said that's what she tended to be drawn to. So I think after the time I was about 5 years old, I don't ever remember my mother dating much after that. But she said she made a choice, and to this day she's still single. But my mom just said communication, talk, get to know the person, be their friend first, because that's what's gonna save your marriage if you have that communication. So when I met my husband, he was going through a divorce, and I refused to date him. Even though he was looking to date, I said no. I said, we have a lot of things in common. I'll be your friend, but I actually started dating somebody else, and I just remained friends with him, but we kept the dialogue between us open with the conversation. And we really just, what we ended up finding out was we had a lot of things in common, but get down into the nitty-gritty of don't be afraid to say what you want. Because if they're not willing to back that, then they don't really care about you as much as you maybe care about them. Because experiencing what me and my husband are experiencing with all the medical stuff with my kids and my mother, you need that strong friendship in those times where there is no lover part of you. When your mind takes over the lover, that part is gone, because women, we are so cerebral when we get into those things. So that part of us tends to go. But if you can have that friendship and those communications, that's what gets us through even when we're struggling. We just like to really tell each other, like, I need this more from you right now. Or I say, I don't have that to give, but let's take 10 minutes, even if it's just run to the grocery store, and we hold hands while going to the grocery store really quick to get back, or just walk outside and get that fresh air or something. Or I don't know, we just, you find the moments, but I think that's the only reason we have made it through these tough times, is because of that beginning friendship, that we told each other we were going to take care of our parents if they were sick. We didn't want this, we didn't want that, because with him going through his divorce, his ex didn't speak up, and he was telling her all he wanted, but she was like, oh yeah. And so that was really hard for him. So for us, that's really, I feel, kept it, not saying we haven't struggled or had our issues with it, but once we realize we need that communication, it makes a difference.
Thank you. Quick question for ladies on the side. Do any of you have daughters?
I do.
Okay, so how does not being married, how do you think that's gonna affect your daughters? Because sometimes as a single parent, not having the husband, you may worry that your children are not gonna have those same experiences as someone who's married, especially with her learning about how to deal with men and just the protection aspect of it. Can anyone speak to that?
Yeah, so I have a daughter. She's 8 years old now. A little bossy. I feel that I didn't have a father figure, in my life. And going back to like the disadvantaged, I don't think that she will be disadvantaged, I will say that. Because it depends on the spouse and what they're presenting, or the dad and what they're presenting. If they're presenting domestic violence, if they're like presenting like instability, if they're presenting, I have a job, 9 different jobs in 1 year, if they're presenting like smoking and alcoholism. So as a mother, you provide a safe haven, and that person comes in and they disrupt that. So I think that my daughter like recognizes what it looks like for it to be safe and to be fearless, in the home versus, a man that comes in and like obstructs like something like that. And so, we do talk about like dating and boys, and if she's curious about things and she watches different healthy like shows on her iPad about, dating relationships or boy and girl dynamics, and I don't think that she's gonna be disenfranchised. Or I feel like for myself, I'm a success that came from a single mother. Bachelor's degree, master's degree, things like that. And I feel like if you put good interventions in, then you can get good outcomes. So I don't worry about her. And I hope that, she will be a success, and she will, navigate dating and marriage, in a healthy way.
Thank you. I think with my daughter, actually, my being single worked for her as advantage, because from the day one, I told her, you're on your own. Like, I'm not gonna help you with your homework. I don't have time for that, and I also didn't want to do it. And so she became very like resilient, responsible, very like her own person. And I think to the topic of like how she would date people in the future, she saw me during the last 10 years, like dealing with my own self-worth, and I grew up as a person, and she was observing me, and she learned so much. And now she's 15, and some of her girlfriends started dating, and she's not needy. She doesn't really need a boy. She's just waiting for the perfect and good one. And I'm actually very, very proud of her. And I feel that probably me in some way influenced her. And she's very like self-sufficient and has her own self-worth. Yeah.
My daughter is 21, believe it or not, but I had her when I was 19. She's seen a lot. Well, I just hid a lot from them. They didn't see their dad like a bad guy, because I used to just hide it. At night, he would act up, and they would never know. But with her, she's not interested in like men like that. She dated a lot of guys that kind of look like her dad. So she liked like chocolate and like tall and dark skin, but in smarter guys. Her boyfriend was like smarter than her, but she's not really interested in like a relationship. She's kind of just like me. She just want to just live her life and have fun and follow her dreams. So it's, I don't know.
You don't feel like it had that much of an impact?
No.
I think, going back to, not bad-mouthing the father or your ex, whoever it is, to their children, I think you want to set them up where in the future they're not skeptical of men. If they choose to date, they're not going to think that, oh, my mother said this about my dad, or I saw this, and that's how all men are. So, I commend the ladies that really make sure that you shield your children from, having this negative perception about their father. Eventually, with time, if anything needs to come up, it'll come up once the kids grow up. But I feel like it's not our responsibility to share those negative things to our children, especially girls, because then, how would they date? They go into relationships with their guards up because they feel like that's how all men are.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I think some mothers may think that they're protecting their child from him, and that's why they have to say these things so that they don't get their hopes up or things like that. But like you said, that could actually bring fear and cause more problems, and they're going to find out eventually.
I totally agree with that. And I also tell my daughter, oh, you're creative like your dad, or you're smart like your dad, oh, you look like him. And it builds this figure like maybe it's imaginary, but it's next to her that she's proud of, and it's working out really well. I can see it.
All I'll say is you don't need that man to be that influential person. I jokingly tell my mom all the time, I married my mom because she was that strong woman in my life. She showed me how to hold down a job and how to support her family. And she gave me all those like life skills and everything. So when I looked for someone to marry, it wasn't about it being a man or a woman. It was someone who was going to take care of me, someone who was going to support me. So it doesn't just have to be that father figure that gives you those ideas of what will make a good partner. You all can give that same exact, love and show them what it's like to have that partner in them.
That leads me right to the next prompt, which is, does a mother need a husband or partner to successfully raise a child?
I'm on both sides.
Okay, we haven't heard a lot from you.
I feel like they don't need it, but it's always that supportive backbone. I think that, personally with my husband, he is the one that wakes the kids up, gets them ready for school, puts them to sleep, and he works in between the day, and I do everything in between. So I feel like in my personal situation, I would really need that because it does give me those small windows for myself. And that's my spouse for me, but it could be someone's parent for them, like grandma, grandpa, being their support. But I feel like they don't need it, but it could be something they could long for when it comes to that.
May I ask, how old are your kids, if you don't mind?
I'm 25, and my oldest just turned 6. His sister is 4, going to 5, and my baby is 1.5.
Okay, that's why I was gonna say, like, I totally agree. Like, I don't think we need it, but at those ages, and that's what I figured, like, that you need, longing for that. Again, it's like that kind of the community, right? Like you said, it could be someone's mother or somebody. And I definitely wholeheartedly disagree with that you need a husband or a partner. Even when it comes back to that last question with being a single mother, how do you navigate teaching your daughter about men and stuff? I think being single has allotted me also like platonic male friendships. And I'm realizing it's so important that my daughter can see safety in those friendships with men just as much as women. I think just as people, we need each other, right? There's this balance that if you only have female friends or only this, it's like you will only get that one side of opinion. And I have male friends with only daughters, and they're 100% involved, and her daughter is, or her father is 100% involved, and she gets different versions of men that she can find safety in, and they've seen her grow up. So I was gonna say, yeah, like I don't feel like we need it, but in those ages and stuff like that, because right around 6 years old, my daughter was, we had to kind of create a schedule. We created a schedule together. So I wake her up and then I'm like, okay, what's next? And she became so self-sufficient. Now she's 11 and I don't even have to tell her she's picking out her clothes for the next day. She chooses to wake up earlier in the day so she can get herself ready for school and make herself breakfast and stuff like that. So it is something that like you kind of like ingrain into them as you go on. But yeah, I think that there is a sense of community that you need, but it doesn't have to be the husband or the partner or anything.
I think having the husband is a nice to have. Because ultimately the mother is the one that's keeping the home, but it's nice to also, if you, at the end of the day, the kids are asleep, if you need to vent, you have someone there is an advantage. It's a nice to have, yeah.
I think something I haven't heard anyone share that I noticed being a mom and being married is sometimes there's just decisions. It could be like the smallest thing, but I'm not able to fully know, is this the right decision to make? And having someone else, just even if they give you the wrong answer, it's like, well, that was your fault then, but just having that person to kind of bounce it off of also just, I think, helps. But like you said, you can have that with a parent or someone else as well. I think when it's their parent, you might feel a little bit more secure, but just having another adult to have conversations with about things that affect the child?
I'm like on the fence. I feel like it's both ways for me. Now that I don't have my mom, I'm like, you do need a husband. Because before, she was telling me like what to do and stuff. But now it's like, I need a husband because I feel like it's certain stuff that I cannot show my son how to do, or he needs just like a male voice because he's not afraid of me at all. So I'm like, no, we need. And so far it's good, but I'm like, no, somebody's gonna have to come in pretty soon.
Well, it's important for you to acknowledge and not pretend like it's not necessary. And depending, it doesn't have to be your husband. It could be an uncle or someone else that you trust. But I do think that it is important. And the question is interesting because it says successfully raise a child. Because I've heard some mothers, and I'm a product of a single parent as well, say like, yeah, I can do it. And it's like, okay, you can do it. But then what about the child? Is this child in jail, on drugs? Is this child, confused, dealing with mental illness? You did it. But what is your definition of successfully raising a child? So do you have any thoughts on that?
My mom was bipolar, and so she basically was raising me to kill herself by the time I was about 15. So she made me really strong. She wanted me to be able to hold down a job, and because her goal was to emancipate me by that age so I wouldn't go to my abusive grandparents. So am I a success? Yes. And is it helping me right now? Yes. But I lost my childhood too because I had to be so strong and adult, and then I had to deal with her, the bills and the rent and everything. Those aren't necessarily issues kids should have to deal with. Does it teach them a lot of amazing information? Yes. But I think for me, what a lot of the times when my mom would say, thankfully at 15, my mom found therapy and medication, and so I still have my mom to this day. So I preach mental health all the time. But my mom will say, you're raising weak kids. And I said, no, I'm raising kids. They deserve to be children. They don't need to be that strong. They don't need to know how to do that yet. I also have a husband who supports me. You were a single mom and you didn't have anywhere for me to go in this situation. If something happens to me or my husband, we already have a family that's gonna take both kids and they're gonna transition right in, and they're with the loving people so we have it prepared. I said, you were floating by yourself down the rapids and had no help. She had no village. So I understand why I was raised the way I was. And like I said, am I successful? Yes. I didn't do drugs. I was a good kid. But at the same time, there are times that it kind of when I see my kids just getting to be kids, it's a little resentful. Or my mom, I call it, we're like goats fighting sometimes because she needs help with her medical, but I'm strong and she's strong and we're both heading, and I go, you made me this way. This is what happens when you made me a strong woman to take care of myself. I'm now taking care of everyone, and that's my job. And so it makes it hard because I feel like I'm too strong sometimes, and I don't know when to back off and just let it be.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Can any of you ladies relate to that? Do you sometimes feel, as a single parent, that maybe you give your child responsibilities that are more adult responsibilities, or lean on them like you would a husband, depending on how old your children are? As they become teenagers, sometimes that does happen with single parents because they don't have anyone. So the oldest child becomes their confidant or things of that nature. Have you ever experienced that, or have you thought about that from your child's eyes?
I definitely have. I'm very, very open with my daughter, right? Whenever she has questions, I'm never the type to try and beat around the bush to answer, because I think, so I've thought about that, because I also have friends that are like, you shouldn't answer that right now, and that they're too young for this, right? But I think as parents, our natural instinct is to protect our child as much as possible. But the reality of it is that we need to teach our children to make decisions, right? And we're not always gonna be there. I lost my mom when I was 20. So while I was transitioning to being an adult, I didn't have her anymore. And like, I think that when she died, I was like, she didn't teach me anything about taxes. She didn't teach me even to open up a bank account. Like, she didn't teach me like the basics of being an adult. So I did have to navigate that myself. And with my daughter, it's even like if I'm giving her money, like we're teaching, okay, we're gonna save this much and then you can spend this much. And you're kind of teaching them to make decisions, and you're still guiding them and leading them, as protecting them as much as possible, but exposing them to things to be like, what do you think is the best decision in this moment? And I'm gonna help you in this, So I definitely feel for your story, and it's such a beautiful thing that what came out of it. But I do understand that sentiment of being too strong. I think having been single for some time, I actually just got out of a 5-year relationship, and it's like, there were times that he even said to me, he's like, I would love to help you more, but you wouldn't let me. You won't let me. And I'm like, well, I don't really know the dynamic, right? Like, we're not married yet. Like, we're not. So what should I be accepting or asking of you as my partner, especially not being the father of my child and her father being present? So there is a lot of like, oh, I got this. I'll do it for you, or I'll do it. And like, I didn't realize at the time that there were probably moments where he would have loved to stand up for me, right? And I didn't think I needed him. I didn't need him, but I should have at least acted like it. I don't know.
I do it to my husband all the time.
Yeah.
Even if it's moving a cabinet, I'm just like, I just go and do it because that's what I did my whole life with my mom. If we wanted it moved, we moved it. I'll come home with stuff on top of my van still, and he'll be like, babe, why didn't you call me? And I'll be like, I have a van. I don't need you. And then it's like, and I feel bad because sometimes I feel like I do take some of his responsibilities away from him just because of that dynamic. And he came from a loving mother, father, like what I would consider your nuclear family kind of, so for him, it's like he doesn't get those things, but I'm like, oh, if I want it done, I'm just gonna go do it.
Right. Why would I wait around for you?
Yeah.
Definitely, I felt sometimes it was too much for my daughter, and I also felt responsible for taking her from different country, separate her from her father and taking her here. And one time we even had to use her money that she made as an actress to pay our rent, which I'm very against. I think kids make money for themselves, but it was like that. But at the same time, I think this is her destiny and this is her life. And as they say, our kids will always find something to talk with their therapist about. Even if they're coming from the most loving family in the whole world, they'll find something to resent us for. So I think it's all good. It's all good. So.
But you're aware of it.
I'm aware that some things were too much for her. Yeah.
And I think as mothers, you have to give yourself credit or give yourself grace. Raising children, whether you're married or single, is not easy. They don't come with a manual. And so you navigate those terrains. And to me, success looks like, my children are in college, 2 of them, and they both went out of state. And so the fact that they're out of state without me, and they're living their lives, they're paying their rent. My oldest one she just turned 21. She lives off campus. She pays rent. She pays her bills. I mean, I give her the money, but she handles the bills. But the fact that they're able to be away and they're doing well, I don't get any calls, that they're in trouble. They call me every day. We FaceTime, we talk. That's successful. That's success.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely.
There's a lyric to like a rap song that says like, my baby mama is stronger than most of you, and they say like a bad expletive. And sometimes when my children's father is like around and, maybe we spend the night at the great grandmother's house and like the kids are ready to like pack up their things and help me carry them to the car, I think of that because I kind of just raised them to like do things. And they do. They like pick up some of the slack, I do laundry, I cook, I do the cleaning, in the house and things like that. But I have a 8-year-old daughter, a son that just turned 6 this month, and I have a 1-year-old that will be 2 soon. And when I came home from getting a C-section, my daughter, she was like, I can warm up the meals, things like that. My son was like, I can get every diaper he needs and bring it to you. And I can always get the wipes and I can get his clothes. And so they do, in a sense, like pick up slack. They don't have like a hardship life. I don't think that they would say or tell their therapist later, but I think that they do, and I do think of that. I think that I'm raising them in a way that makes them like stronger than a lot of people, but in a good sense of being self-sufficiently strong.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're gonna go on to the next prompt. Do you think married mothers are unfairly expected to maintain the perfect family image? Okay, anyone can answer that.
Yes, I do. I think when you're married and a mother, society just expects you to be superwoman. They expect that everything should be fine. They think that, you have a spouse, so, you're both bringing in income. They think that you shouldn't have any problems. But contrary to that, we do face challenges. Those expectations, trying to live up to other people's expectations as a married mother is not easy. And sometimes you just have to do what works for you. And I think also for me, it just comes with age. I'm at a certain age where I don't really care what people say anymore. So I just do what works for me. I ignore those expectations and just do what works for me.
Thank you.
Well, kind of going off on what you said, I feel like it depends on what society you're trying to look up to, because I come from a Hispanic household, and in their perfect household, the wife's supposed to be 100% stay at home. You can't go enjoy yourself with your friends. You have to tend your husband. Your husband can't pick up the mop or the broom. He can't pick up the pan. And going off on the last prompt, my husband is the way he is because his mom was working 2 jobs while he was growing up, because his dad was in a completely different city 2 hours apart. She didn't have anybody, and he was 5'6", taking care of a 1-2-year-old, home alone. She wouldn't have a babysitter at times, so he would be at home making the bottles all by himself. So when it comes to our household, he loves cooking. He makes his favorite soups. When someone's sick, he's the one that wants to tend to someone sick. And whenever I try to confide in my mom or in his mom or his stepmom, they're kind of like, they take a step back when I say, oh yeah, he helped me cook today. And my dad is like, what do you mean he's cooking? So at this point, I mean, we're about to be 6 years married, but I've known him for almost 10. And we just don't care anymore. So whatever works in our household and we're happy, the kids are happy, that's what works for us.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone on this side want to speak to that?
When I was married, I used to have to put up this facade that I was so perfect, but I wasn't. Everything I want to do bad, I'll tell my sister. Anytime I want to talk to a friend, I would do it behind my husband's back. And I was in the church where they was like pushing this life on me where I had to be like super perfect. And women had to serve their husband and all this stuff. And I was like, why? Why is it so hard to be married? I just didn't understand it. But it's like so many wives that go through that you have to be perfect and like everybody looks up to you, and you do. People do look up to you because they like your lifestyle and stuff. And it was just, to me, it was harder than being a single woman. It's harder than growing up when my mom had 9 kids by herself. I was like, this image was just, even when we took pictures, like at a picture place, they would ask me if they could use our family as like an example so that they could like sell, make more money. And I was like, what? But that's how picture perfect it was. And then as soon as I got out of it, I was like, I don't never want to be in something like that again. It felt like a cult. I felt like I was married to the church and that man and everybody on Facebook. So I just felt like that's the persona of being married, and I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I've definitely heard people who are single mothers make comments. Let's say the child has to go to like some sort of after school activity, and they say, well, you may have to take this person and Johnny's and Johnny's friends too. And she's like, well, Johnny has a mom and a dad. Why do I need to do that? Or Johnny's parents have the two parents in the household. They should have the money for that. And so there's that expectation for married parents to be able to have everything, have enough money, have enough time, and won't be able to ask for help or have sympathy from people. I've definitely seen that.
I definitely expect people who have two-parent households for their children to behave better. I'm like, you have that daddy that's 6'7" and a mom, and you are running around and you're controlling them, and they're carrying you to the car from the park because you don't want to leave the birthday party. I'm like, what is going on? So I definitely, now I'm seeing that there is some criticism and judgment of like what a two-parent household can like produce, and that it should be a certain way too.
Yeah, so with those expectations, when I was going through my divorce, it was the most difficult thing, not because it was my decision, but the people, the bystanders, the society. I'm of West African descent, and in our culture, just like Hispanic, no matter what's happening, you got to stay for the kids. So when I made the decision to divorce, those it was so difficult, not because I was divorcing, but just the things that you would hear from people that you're selfish, you don't care about your children, all of those things. You're not going to make it because now you're going from a double income home to a single income home, all of those things. So those societal expectations, like if you're not a strong woman, they could really weigh you down. And when you make a decision, I made that decision, so I just stuck to my decisions and just, I turned a blind eye or blind ears to those gossips. And right now, as I sit here, that decision was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That actually leads me right to the next prompt, which is, would you say that married mothers are more financially stable than single mothers? Okay, anyone can respond.
Right now, because we were a two-income household, but with my mom being sick and now my son being sick, and my daughter struggles with her autism and bipolar, I'm home. And it just so happens that every program that I keep being told about that we could use for me to stay home and then get paid to stay home, my husband makes too much money. And you're like, but I can't pay my electricity bill, or I don't know how we're gonna buy food just because we live in a decent neighborhood or whatever. We're lucky we got into that neighborhood when we did, and our landlord is amazing because, our rent is probably it would be double what he's actually charging us because we've been there for going on 11 years. And he always signs us for like 4 or 5 year leases at a time because he loves us and we want to stay. But it's just because the outer shell may look beautiful and shiny doesn't mean that when you go inside, it's not a dying grass landscape. Sometimes we're just really good at masking the outside to make it perceive that things are better than they are. It definitely does not mean it's better, the programs that are there that should support you during these like hard times, like especially to say that your husband's car that is not new needs to be sold in order for you to qualify. It makes no sense when that's his car to get to work. It doesn't make, things like that don't make sense to me. But all I do is just tell myself that breathe and just, live a little more frugal, and just we still give. And I think that's our biggest thing is we're still blessed. We may not have as much as others, but we're still blessed. So I feel like that's, I think, one of the things I am teaching my kids is you don't have to have everything, and so, yeah, I don't know. I feel like my mom as a single mom took, like, sometimes it was way better just with what she had available to her than being in a married, because then your dynamic is different, so they calculate you different. And it does change the dynamic of that.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. Thank you.
Can I go? When I was married, I had way more money. Way more money. My husband was making $25 an hour in 2000 and what, 7 or 8? 2007. I haven't even made that much money yet in my own life because I have to do so much. I'm like following my dreams, working, and I just got a bachelor's degree probably like 3 years ago and still not making that kind of money. So when I was married, we was always throwing money away. We were at the mall every day. I was getting my hair done all the time. That's the only thing I miss about being married is having all that money. Like, it was so bad that my husband was stealing. We had used to put our money up high, and he would just steal it. And I'm like, why are you stealing the money when you make all the money? Well, so it was just always money in the house, and we were just blowing it everywhere. I was everywhere, and I just missed having so much money. Just now, if we had that kind of money, I would have been like investing and doing other things, but it was just better. Financially was better to me. I'm sorry.
I actually experienced the opposite. So again, I was married when I was 23. I was very young. And we made good money together. But it was the constant, like, if I wanted to do something for myself or purchase something for myself, it was judgment coming from my partner or, you don't need that, you don't need that. And so, when you're going through your day-to-day and you're working a lot and everything and you can't even kind of enjoy what you're doing and everything goes to your child and bills, it does feel like you're drowning, right? When I separated, I went through a very hard time because I got laid off a couple times, but I fell into a job and kind of had a manager that kind of saw my potential, and I was promoted a few times, and I'm making more money than I did when I was married. And I do think it really depends on your partner. It's a little situational. I don't think that he didn't support me, but I was in this mindset as I can't leave my job because then what, right? Like, I have to continue to make this money for our family, and I couldn't even step out of that to explore the things that I could be passionate about or I could be good at. And so I was just kind of living day to day. So it was very much like we had a house together and we did these things, we had all these things, but we were literally just living like house poor, just paying bills after bills after bills. And so now I make sure to make time for myself, and I have a little bit money on the side. So it's really interesting because it really depends on your partner.
Yes, I do agree that it depends on the household. I do know a few single parents that are doing amazing. Their kids are participating in everything, and it costs money to have kids participate in everything. It depends on the household. You could have married people that just don't know how to manage their money, and someone who is single is doing a better job than them. So it depends on the individual. It depends on your priorities. It depends on what's important to you. You mentioned that, when you were married in 2007 or so, I'm assuming you were young, so your priorities were different. But you said that, if it was now, you would invest because you've grown and you've matured. So I think it depends on the household, yeah.
That's true. Yeah, you're right.
When I was married in Ukraine, I also had a lot of money, but then I came here and had nothing. But for the last 10 years being single, I built 2 businesses and I became independent, absolutely. And looking into at my friends, some of my married friends, maybe they're relaxed or maybe they're in this comfort zone and they didn't do anything for the last 10 years. And unfortunately, men leave, men die, men cheat as much as women, and something can happen and they will be just on their own, not knowing what to do. So even now, if I want to, I cannot to work in my new relationship, but I would never choose that because I don't want to be in position dependent on someone or telling me how to spend my money or to spend on what. So I really love what I've built for myself being a single woman, and I think that I wouldn't be that determined to do that if I were with someone.
That's so interesting. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Going along with what you just said, how many of you have had to choose between financial stability and being present for your child? Because you mentioned, that you You mentioned that you would still work, but then you do have a daughter. And sometimes that comes into play, this question of, okay, should I be working and making money or spending time with my child? So did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, one in a while I was just like getting booked all the time on these acting gigs, and I was having to pick my kids up from school early just so they could be there for each other and watch each other so I can go to these gigs. 4:30, I have to be on set. So I was picking them up exactly when school got out, 2:30, and go to the gig and wouldn't get off till 6 o'clock in the morning. And I did that for like 2 weeks straight. But I just was like, I can't be present for you guys. I have to feel like make this money. It was crazy money. It's like $600 a day at the time for just 2 weeks. But I said, I have to make this money. I have to get this money. So you guys just have to do what you got to do. And I just, now that I look back on it, I was like not a present mom. I was just worried about money. So that's why I said it was better when I was married. I didn't have to do all that stuff to make money. I could have just went once a week or whatever. But being a single mom, I had to make sure I had money to survive. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you're right. You had to survive.
I had to come up with creative ideas because I wanted to be in her life, but at the same time, I had to make money. So I built a business around her that I can be with her. So I opened up an acting school for kids, and I didn't have money to pay for other activities. So she would come to my acting school where she danced, when she sang, and I was spending with her all the time. So I was lucky in that way.
That's beautiful. Anyone else want to speak to that?
Yeah, so I also have made 2 businesses. I am a nail tech and I do permanent jewelry. And I feel like it's just really hard to balance both, at least in my situation. I was booking nail appointments, but then it takes 2 to 3 hours per set because it's a lot of like painting on the nail. And I did work around for a while, and I had a little setup for my daughter. So I would take her whenever it was just gel so she didn't have to smell any of the acrylic. But then the more people came to me, the more I needed to present myself in social media, the more content I had to create, the more time I would have to spend. And I switched it to permanent jewelry because I could make how much I made during the week on nails with just like one pop-up during the weekend. But then my husband is in real estate, so he'd do open houses on the weekend. And there were those moments where I just felt like I was very invested on those businesses, and my kids would just have to kind of like color on the side or be entertained next to me. And I would still be present, but not that one-on-one that I love to give to them, play blocks with them, build something so they could tear it down. And I had my third, and that's when my businesses are neglected right now. I have maybe my main 3 clients a month for nails, but it's 3. I can't just send them to my mom because she's like, whoa, it's 3 under 6. I'm not gonna do it. So it was really hard for me to balance the businesses and provide, because my money is always gonna be the extra, like, let's go out, let's go to an amusement park, let's go shopping, let's go drink some coffee. And now that, luckily, my husband's real estate business is picking up, so we could still kind of do it. But now the 2 things that I love to do, which is nails and just make my own money, I have to put on the back end to give that one-on-one to my baby. My other 2 are in kinder, going to 1st grade. So I know first half of the day I could give more to my last baby because he's a lot. But yeah, it's really hard to balance at times.
It's a sacrifice either way you look at it.
I find that interesting too, because I work full time and then I do hair and makeup for weddings on the side. And so there were weeks where I would be working 7 days a week, and sometimes I will do a wedding in the morning and then do a shift at night. And what was interesting is when I was married, my daughter we separated when she was 4. So she was like a toddler, and I felt, because like you, a lot of my money was kind of to extra things. I felt that I couldn't say no to these gigs. So I spent a lot of time, he would go and visit his family, which is out of town, and I'd be like, oh, I gotta work, I'm sorry, I gotta work. But then when I became single, I didn't have that option to just leave her with her dad sometimes, right? So it turned into, luckily I got a Monday through Friday job, so like my weekends were reserved for weddings. And so I started inviting her to the weddings. I would tell my client like, hey, is it okay if my daughter comes? She would wash my brushes in between clients and I would pay her. And I would basically say, hey, if you want to do this, I said, I can take you to like my aunt's house or my cousin's house, your cousin's house, or you can come and you can assist me, right? And I can pay you, or I can take you to the mall afterwards, right? So it now becomes, now when she comes, she actually lives with her dad, so she comes and visits me. She'll be like, do you have a wedding this weekend? Can we like, and now she's at that age where she wants the money. So, so it's interesting that just kind of how the dynamic shifted. Just like you said with your friends that were married, it's like you kind of get stuck. You're like, I have to do this and stuff. And I think as single mothers, we learn to be resourceful and we learn to kind of like shift things and make things work in our favor. So it's like I had to sacrifice being present, but it was odd that I'm realizing now that I did it when I had a partner, and I kind of leaned on the fact that he was there and that I had to be, gone. So, but yeah.
And seeing that we're all mothers here, do you think society undervalues the unpaid labor of mothers, whether you're single or you're married?
Absolutely. I think that goes for all of us. Being a mother it's a full-time job. When you work, after whatever your 9 to 5 or whatever job you do, you still have to work in taking care of your children. That's a full-time job. You want your children to be well-rounded. You want them to be, established. So all of that. It's like working at the home. It's a full-time job. You want to teach them financial stability like you're doing with your daughter. It's a full-time job. So you're the accountant, you're the doctor, you're the nurse, you're everything, whether you're married or single. Yep.
Yeah, I think Mother's Day is just not enough. That one holiday it's not enough because mothers do so much on a day-to-day. And if the child is sick, most of the time the mother is like stand behind, missing work to take care of them, worrying about them. Their whole emotional status changes until like that child is like better or what it is. And so like you said also, you're like the chef, you're the chauffeur, you're the doctor, all of these things. And I think that society does not recognize that. They, feel like that it's easier for mothers because we are like nurturers or, we are more emotional, but it's still like, I don't think people say it either. It's like your whole life changes when you become a mother. And it's like a difficult thing, but you just figure out how to navigate it and do it the best way that you can do it.
Absolutely. As mothers, I'm just curious, when you see your children, you try to provide everything you can financially and with time. When you see your children making friends with children who have more than you have, do you feel like, you wish you could do that? Maybe if I could make some more money, or maybe if I had a husband. Do those thoughts ever come into your mind in terms of wanting to give your children everything?
Not me. My son, he has everything to me. He has a lot. He has love for me. Every time we go to Target, he wants a toy. So he has a lot of toys. And he's autistic, so he doesn't even know what he's like missing yet. He just like wants a father. That's what I sense about him the most. But financially, he doesn't know, which my other kids, they knew when people had more than them. They knew. But he doesn't know.
And I think having more is also subjective, One family may have more money, but I may have more in time that I spent with my children. So having more is subjective. And when I look back with my kids, they had a mix of friends, single family friends, married friends, financially more established than we were. But it's a different type of feeling where I know that I gave time. And, at some point, I was picking up all their friends from school, I was cooking and taking it to the school for their, other people's children. So it's a different type of stability. They may have more financially. You may have more in time,
That's true, yeah.
I used to feel bad, but I'm not anymore because we're doing fine. But my daughter goes to art high school, and sometimes I drive her to the sleepover, and we go to some mansions, like crazy houses. And I'm actually happy that she got to see that life, and I'm focusing on empowering her right now that she can do it for herself if she wants to and if she chooses to. So I don't feel bad anymore. It's fine.
Yeah. Similarly, some of my children's friends, they have really, really huge houses. They have houses, they have pool houses and things like that, and they'll, make comparisons, and they'll say, I want an attic, and I want a basement, and I want a pool, and I want a backyard. There has been other times where, my daughter, she'll be like, so-and-so and so-and-so is the it girl at school. And I'll say, what makes them the it girl? And then she'll say, oh, her mother buys her pink things on the weekend and takes her to like Claire's and like, Sanrio store. So like that makes her the it girl. And so I'll ask those questions and I'll listen, because even like for me with my mom, she had 9 children. Our mom had 9 children. She couldn't afford it, but she wasn't even socially, emotionally in tune to care how you were like, feeling about those things. Or my daughter, she'll say, the holiday shop, Mom, somebody brought $60, I only had 20. And I said, well, were you able to get the things for like your siblings and me that you want, or you didn't have to get me anything? We have a lot of things at home on the floor that you don't pick up. So she'll just make those comparisons. And I do sometimes say, well, does that parent have a mother and a father? Because maybe she has $60 because Mom gave her 30, Dad gave her 30, and things like that. But they have had times where they've had a lot. They get money, they save it, but things like that. But they do make those comparisons, and I just try to be curious and emotionally and socially, caring about what they're going through. Not that I can always just fix it.
Well, it's really important that you have that open dialogue with them and that transparency, that they can be honest with you about these things and you're able to explain or just listen. That's really important. Do you think single mothers have more freedom and independence than married mothers? Okay.
I do. I feel like we do. I feel like when I was married, my husband didn't even want me to do anything or go anywhere. They always think for some reason you're going to leave them or there's a man somewhere. And it's not. Sometimes you just want to have fun and just do stuff outside of church and being married. Or your friends can only be married women. I'm like, no. But now that I'm single, I'm always outside.
Thank you. Anyone else want to share?
I have a really supportive husband who knows how hard I work in the home with the kids and everything. And so he's more like, Friday's coming up, go have coffee with your friends, go out, make sure you go get that done. With all this last time, was really crazy. My girlfriend was going on a cruise, and so she messaged my husband and said, I already paid the double occupancy. Do you guys think you can lose Amber for like 5 days? And my family rallied around me, and they all kicked me out, and I got to go to the Bahamas in January. And I think it just depends on your partner, how supportive your partner can be, because I think that makes the whole world, because I've been in boyfriend-girlfriend relationships because I've been married for so long, but where they were not that supportive, where they were very needy or clingy and they didn't want, it was all about them. And having someone who is pushing me, he knows I'm a social butterfly by nature, and so to be home is very hard for me. And so he takes those moments when he can to kick me out and make me go do something. Even when I don't think I can, he will support me, so I'm appreciative for that.
Thank you.
I think it depends on also where you are. I would say age. Like right now, my husband doesn't restrict me from going out or anything, but I don't want to. It's like, I don't want to,
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, thank you, ladies, all for being here and sharing. I'm so happy that we're able to have this conversation and just speak to married life and single life. Thank you for watching. If any of you have any comments or anything you want to share, please leave a comment below. And until next time, bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you, ladies. That was so nice. Thank you for sharing. We're finished. Again, thank you to Paired App for sponsoring this video. Click my link below to get a 7-day free trial and 25% off Paired Premium so you can maintain and deepen your connection with your partner.